You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome back to Talk Star Wars, episode 171, an Emotionally 14 production. I'm Rob.
And I'm Brad.
Hello.
An Emotionally 14 constituent.
That works.
Am I? Yeah, I guess that works.
Maybe.
I mean, employee doesn't feel right because I'm a freelancer.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for payment, there is...
Yeah.
It's really quite a money pit.
This is a passion project.
Yeah. Money pit is a really depressing way of putting it.
Yeah, passion project.
That works, yeah. It's a side piece.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a fun aside. There you go.
Yeah.
How are things?
Yeah, things are good. Hay fever's hit my face hard and fast.
Yes, mine seems to be bad the last couple of days. I feel your pain.
Yeah, because you went for a walk around the park, you were saying.
Yes, at lunchtime today we went for a lovely little walk around the park, and the weather was quite warm, and we did see some sort of. It's not so much a royal procession, but a procession that was horse drawn, old style carriages and stuff going past Hyde Park. I'm not sure what it was going to or towards or for or whatever.
It's probably a funeral, mate.
It could have been, or I got the feeling it might also be a state visit of some sort. Like possibly. Like a world leader from another country, something like that, maybe came for a state visit. I probably could have looked it up this afternoon, but I didn't for various reasons.
Just the president of Burundi.
Well, yeah. I mean, it could have been the president of Burundi. I have no idea. Yeah. I don't even know if Burundi's still a place. That's how connected I am to world.
I don't think I ever knew.
No.
It's just one of those countries. It's like, it's from somewhere.
It's a lovely sounding country, and I'm sure if it exists, it's a wonderful place.
I'm sure it is. Yeah. All countries have wonderful bits.
Exactly.
Yeah. England's got us.
This is it. And other places I'm sure are wonderful,
and other places have us as well. Yeah.
Sometimes they do. This is true.
Sometimes,
Yeah, we've been known to do so.
Yeah, is it Uganda we were huge in for a week?
No, we're still there. We're still charting.
Still. Yeah, thanks, guys.
We still
appreciate it.
We still chart in Uganda, Kazakhstan, and Lithuania currently.
Brilliant.
Why not, right?
Yeah, no, thanks, guys. We appreciate the support. We honestly do.
We'll end up with, hopefully we'll get one for every letter of the alphabet.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
I think we've had Vietnam as well. So.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Well, actually, now I say that, it might have been another Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has had multiple countries of at least 30, I think. So that's pretty impressive.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. We do all right, don't we, as it goes?
Yeah.
What's your week been like in Star Wars?
I don't know if my book would make me popular in Vietnam or not, to be honest.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. It's a bit of a difficult one.
I don't know. Any Vietnamese listeners, right in?
Yeah. My week in Star Wars, I haven't done a lot this week.
Well, in general?
No. No, I've done much Star Warsing.
Okay.
What was the last Star Warsing thing I did? Was no, I don't think I've done much in the way of Star Warsing at all. Actually.
I think last thing I did, I feel like I talked about it last week, was the comics.
Oh yes,
I did a bunch of comics. I've been doing a bunch of comics in general. I know because I know I've talked to you about this. I don't know if I've talked about it on the air, but I keep a spreadsheet of all the things I've engaged with, all the media that I've engaged with that's new to me.
Yes, I have Facebook albums for similar reasons.
Movies, games, books, TV series, and I also include graphic novels, but only graphic novels.
Okay.
So, not single issues, but full. They have to be a full trade. So I've done quite a lot of trades. Like my list has got massive. I did a big bunch of DC Elseworlds, specifically Batman and Superman ones. I just finished Blackest Night, which is the Green Lantern one. Basically a Green Lantern zombie story, which was kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty nifty, and it makes me, as a good comic does, it made me want all the HeroClix of that set, because they did a set, they did a I know they did a starter which is like Gold Dust.
I don't think I have any lanterns. Gold Dust might be with the WWE set, if that helps.
That's true. Yeah, he might well be. And you know, obviously the inevitable AEW ones in a few years' time will be Mega Blocks.
Yeah.
What other properties there are, but who knows? And obviously to people who are listening who are wrestling fans, that's all hilarious.
Yeah, it really is.
Otherwise, not so much, because you know, with all the love in the world, you didn't come here to hear us talk about HeroClix and wrestling.
No, you came here to weaken Wars and Star and talk at you.
Yes, this is true.
Not in that order.
We definitely do the talk bit on a weekly basis, but
sometimes the show's about Star Wars.
It's been known. Yes, it has been known.
Sometimes I get distracted and talk about Pop-Tarts for an hour.
That's been known too.
Yes.
It's certainly also a known. I think that was just the once so far.
Well,
He says tempting fate. So we've been a little light on listener email this week, but you know it comes and goes, and that's fine. And we always appreciate what we get, but at the same time we appreciate that not everybody has time to write in every week, which is fair enough.
I don't.
No, exactly. You know, so
if anything, right? We should. If we can't make the effort to write in, it's not fair of us to expect it of anyone else.
Yeah, I'll go with that as a rule of thumb. That works for me. Yeah. So our main, meaning only, message this week comes from the delightful Vesuvi, the ever-present.
Of course.
And Vesuvi writes, "Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad. I realise I'm going to have to zoom in a bit because I've taken my glasses off because my eyes hurt. It's the Memorial Day holiday over here as I listen to episode 170 of Talk Star Wars, so I don't have much time to devote to a lengthy response. But below are some links to some of the new Wikipedia entries inspired by the references from the Vanity Fair spread, touting the Orback species, the new desert world of Pasana, delicious, the picturesque Aki-Aki community, stern-faced Allegiant General Pride, snowy Kijimi, the tantalizing Thieves' Quarter, gorgeously clad Zori Bliss, and beautiful Janna. Enjoy for some Vesuvi Night of the Commonwealth." Now, I realise as I read this that what I've done is... So Vesuvi wrote in with a bunch of links that are not going to be working well in an audio format. However, I can probably read... I mean, you know, fandom's fair use, right? Surely. I can read it out.
Wikipedia is public domain.
Yeah, I'll be fine. So I'll read out some... I'll read some highlights. Enjoy Vesuvi Night of the Commonwealth. We always do. P.S. Cheers to Diecast Desperdoo for resurrecting TC-14, for whom I've always had a particular fondness.
Yeah,
Of course she has. P.P.S. Since Brad joked about the line Ubar, uttered by the Kalidahian manufactured midwife droid in Revenge of the Sith, it actually translates to easy.
I like my version better. It's funnier.
Oh, no,
Oh, God! Why is it all stringy?
Oh, no.
It's like someone punched a jackfruit.
I like the notion that Ubar is like, there's no... You know how some words... I mean, actually, easy, the word easy in English has multiple meanings, because obviously it means something that's not difficult. It means relax. It means calm down. You know. So I like the idea that in a bar fight, they would be like, Ubar. Come on now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bang, cannon hammer.
Exactly. Why not? PPPS. I gleefully...
That's not how emails work, guys. You can just edit your original email.
You can, but, you know.
It's not like you've powdered for ink after scraping your quill across the parchment, is it? You can just edit a digital format.
It's fine. Well, you know, maybe when we write in, we can be more nitpicky about this stuff.
I will do. Yeah, right. I'm going to write in, and then I'm going to critique myself.
Okay. Well, we look forward to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, PPPS. I gleefully ingeminate Rob's eloquently expressed verity, which I hope squelches the online speculation in regards to Brendel Hux. He dared. So you might recall that was my entire reaction to last week. The rumours that General Pride was actually Hux's dad, and no, he did. He did.
He did.
He First he died, and now he did.
Yes.
As Reginald D. Hunter is fond of saying. Yeah. So let's have a look at some of these. Let's read off some of these fandom sites.
I'll put them on my screen as well.
Orbach is the sort of wild boar horse hybrid we saw that Finn and Janna were riding around.
Mm.
So they
how are you spelling Orbach? Just so I can.
Orbak.
Orbak.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to send you a copy of these links just so you've got one.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
It'll be a lot easier for us to.
Cool. Orbach, baby. Orbach.
Orbach, baby. Now, why is that not in the film?
I'm using Bing.
Why not, right?
No.
There are some things that are really good. There's some really good things about Bing, none of which I can say on the air. It's good for a really particular type of search.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Not so good for certain. It's good for certain things, not for other things. I found really, really good for business addresses and contact details.
Oh, okay.
Really good
that's
for that.
What you can say on the air, huh?
Yes, that's the one I can say on the air. But it is also good for another thing. But I'll leave that to others' imagination to kind of fill in the blanks there.
What's going on? What button have I pressed now?
I'm not sure. This is one of those ones where it doesn't work. The whole notion of tech support doesn't really work over radio.
Well, no, I think I've clicked share screen. That's why I was asking if you can see.
Right. I can see you, but you're still.
I can't see you at all.
Oh.
This is fascinating for all listeners, I'm sure.
Absolutely, it makes for great radio.
Yeah.
Can you see me? No, I cannot.
Two complete numbskulls try and orbit their way through Wikipedia.
Yeah, basically.
All you guys listen out there, this is exactly like what old people's homes are going to sound like in 30 years.
Do you know what? That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Except
do you remember the Fire Stick? I remember the Fire Stick. That's what you're going to get.
Oh, the 1080 one. You are old. It was 4K or GTFO in our house.
Yeah.
I like the notion that old people would just be saying GTFO to each other, talking exclusively in acronyms and memes.
Yeah, I've got you just a static image on my screen, and
that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, that'll do.
Orbach. Okay, yeah, they're the things that look like a wild boar's been punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And a wild boar that's been allowed to grow its hair out.
Yeah, hippie boar. No, hippie boar lives on Jakku. That's something else.
Yeah, hippie boar's a different thing. Yeah. So Orbachs are a species of horse-like creatures native to Pisana. Finn and Janna rode Orbachs during the war between the Resistance and the First Order. Okay.
Well, they weren't wrong. There is spoilers ahoy.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the whole theme of the film. So I don't know what spoilers precisely it's.
I would love if After 9 comes out, that's still all the canon information on them.
I'd be kind of all right with that, to be honest, just for, because reasons, to be honest. I don't need any more than that, to be honest.
No.
Pisana was a desert planet on the edge of the galaxy, home to the Aki-Aki species. Wow, guys, slow down. You really... I feel like this is literally just the stuff that was in Vanity Fair.
Yeah, is it just a verbatim cut and paste, do you think?
I suspect some of these entries are going to be.
There's a lot of assumption here. They've said the Orbach designation is non-sentient.
Right.
We don't know that.
No, it's true.
They could be like centaurs.
Yeah, they could be. That would be unfortunate. If they all talk like Carriolas, that would make up for it somewhat. Well, I don't know why him, but
I say that a lot.
Yeah, I think that would improve a lot of things. To be honest, I would use my Echo way more. Other digital assistants are available if it sounded like Carriolas and reply to everything with as you wish.
I'm almost certain Pisana was a tomato-based sauce.
Probably, yes. I think there's probably something very similar that has a name like that.
Well, there's a load of information there.
Yeah, absolutely. Desert Planet appears in episode 9.
Yeah.
Top notch.
We assume.
Yeah, top notch.
There's an entry for episode 9. We could just go to that.
We could.
That's probably just going to have everything.
Yeah, it would. But at the same time, I feel like it would just be a bunch of links to these things. So I think, it would basically do the job that Vesuvi's done for us. So it seems like
you are not wrong.
Well, it's been known. The Aki-Aki are a sentient species native to the desert planet Pisana. Now, I could have got that from the other article. All right, well, never mind.
This is starting to read like one of those logic problems.
The Aki-Aki don't live at number 7, but they do know the butcher.
Yes.
Here we go.
All right, what are we going to?
Pride.
Oh, yes.
So this is Allegiant General Pride. Pride was a human male who held the military rank of Allegiant General in the armed forces of the First Order during the war against the Resistance and their allies. Pride had blue eyes, fair skin, and grey hair. As an officer of the First Order, Pride wore the standard military officer uniform along with his appropriate rank insignia of the First Order. This is very much a description of the photo. I suspect this will take precisely 1,000 words. Pride is a character appearing in the upcoming 2019 film Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. He is portrayed by Richard E. Grant. To get the role of Pride, Grant had to audition by acting out scenes from a 40s British war film, and a few months later he was taken to Pinewood Studios to meet director J.J. Abrams, who told him he got the role. And that's it.
I'm going to look up some 1940s British war films, see if that gives us anything.
Okay.
So there weren't many made in the 40s, I don't think.
Yeah. Unless that was like the sort of the brief he was given. You know, like they sometimes send, you know, I know Star Wars especially has a lot of secrecy kind of shrouded around it. And they send out auditions that aren't actually bits of the film so that they protect the fact that it's Star Wars. Yeah. Because that's the common thread you hear in a lot of these audition stories is, I didn't know I was auditioning for Star Wars until I got told I'm in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So I suspect that, I mean, maybe the 40s war film was actually just J.J. Abrams saying, this is going to be a 40s British war film. Read for this. And then eventually he goes, we lied. It's episode 9. Mm-hmm. Kijimi is a snow-dusted planet in the galaxy home to the Thieves' Quarter. Brilliant. Thieves' Quarter. A group of people on Kijimi. Wow, okay, I was joking. The Thieves' Quarter was an area on the planet Kijimi. The scoundrel Zori Bliss resided there. Okay. Oh, so it's actually a part of the planet. It's not actually so it's more like a Maz's Cantina thing than a guild. I thought it might be a guild, like the Thieves chapter or something. There's actually just an area of the city. Mm-hmm. Zori Bliss. Oh, I keep touching the wrong link. Bear with me. Oh, here we go. So, come on. Zori Bliss was a female scoundrel who spent time in the Thieves' Quarter on the frigid planet Kijimi during the war between the First Order and the Resistance. Behind the scenes, Zori Bliss is a character appearing in the upcoming 2019 film Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. She is portrayed by Kerry Russell.
Okay.
So far, it's I won't lie, it's Slim Pickens.
Yeah. Is he in it as well?
Yeah, Slim Pickens is one of the thieves. He doesn't do so well.
Wonder if he was in a 1940s war film.
Maybe.
He was not.
Janna was a human female who crossed paths with members of the Resistance during the war against the First Order. Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, there's a quote from Naomi Aki. All I can really say is the original group is going on this epic adventure together, and Janna crosses paths with them. Janna is a character appearing in the upcoming 2019 film Star Wars Episode 9. She will be portrayed by Naomi Aki. Janna's name and appearance were first revealed during the Star Wars Episode 9 panel at Celebration Chicago.
Yeah.
So actually, this article's probably been there for a month or so.
Yeah.
TC-14.
TC-14 in it?
Not in Episode 9. Okay, right. It's just part of the bundle of links.
That was a surprise.
That would have been a surprise. So I'll skip on. Kaladahin is the midwife droid. Is Polis Massa. So it's the people of Polis Massa. Mm-hmm. It's the Kaladahin, rather. Midwife droid. Look, I've forgotten how much it looks like a games console.
It really does.
But like a really, one of those ones that's like, it's not the one you want. It's like the one that somebody buys you from Argos for 30 quid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brendel Hux. So when did actually, let me just clarify this just for the sake of full completion. When did he actually pass? Oh, I'm guessing it's the Battle of the Jakku, right?
Who, sorry?
Brendel Hux.
Or Hux? No, I think he was around for a bit afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So I was under the impression he recruited Phasma. I might be wrong. I'm quite stupid.
Actually, no. Phasma is mentioned in this. Oh, there you go. So, his attempt to kill Phasma. Whose attempt? Somebody called Cardinal. I'm guessing this is from the book Phasma.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I'm guessing. Oh, okay. So it's only they get it from Armitage Hux. So Domhnall Gleeson's Hux reveals it before the events of Phasma, by the looks. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he's definitely dead, isn't he?
Yeah, that was the impression I was under. Unless he's going to come back as a Force ghost, which is a theory.
I feel like that would raise more questions than it answered, to be honest.
But yeah,
I mean, that would, certainly raise questions about, say, Armitage Hux. It seems like the kind of odd thing they would probably have to refrain from revealing in the last film of a 9-film saga.
It would be a weird creative decision.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say they wouldn't make it because they do sometimes make weird decisions.
Yeah.
It's been known,
Yep. Luke going to a jungle to hang out with a puppet for a half hour.
Yeah, that's true. It is weird. It's an odd choice, but at the same time, we wouldn't have it any other way in hindsight.
Exactly.
We're done with the links, by the way, so you can close that.
Yeah, I've gone back to Skype and there's still your lovely frozen face for.
Yeah, I've still got your frozen face. Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
Ah, well, we'll just have to let it go.
Oh.
And build a snowman. I don't know. I forget.
I've not seen it.
Yeah,
she's nearly 2.5 and I still haven't seen it.
You'd probably dig it if you saw it, to be honest.
Probably.
Yeah, why not? So you had a question to chuck into the mix for this week.
Oh, you mean I wrote into the show?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
You see?
Yeah. Now, obviously, as per your...
No, you've got to read it out and I've got to critique it.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So you wrote
Don't give me a stupid voice, though.
You wrote a 2-part question.
Yes.
And it's basically one half is a question, then we flip, and then you flip it to its complete opposite pole. So if you could make Star Wars fandom calm down and cool their jets over one thing, what would you choose? I take it that you have an answer, like a thought on specifically.
I don't. I have lots of little things, I guess, and some more serious than others. So I thought we could kind of kick it around a bit. I'm sure you've got things as well.
There are things for sure.
Yeah, we like things.
Yeah, things are good. And obviously for those who didn't pick up on the subtext of saying there's a flip question, there will be one that will be the opposite of this. So it'll be about choosing one thing and making it more of a big deal.
Yeah.
Let me think.
Well, the one that immediately comes to mind, even more so than stuff like "Calm down, there's no Kenobi movie, there's no Boba Fett movie yet," is the Han shot first debacle. Okay. I can't believe that still gets brought up.
Okay. I mean, I can see that.
It's, I will admit, well, firstly, I didn't notice it had been changed until someone pointed it out for me, and now I can't not see it.
Oh, wow, really? What, the first?
Yeah, first time I saw Special Edition, I didn't twig that had been changed.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I'm a pillock.
I mean, to be fair, if you've seen a film enough times, you aren't even thinking about things like that.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice that they changed the timing of the shot. And it was, they've kept picking at it as well. He's changed every subsequent piece.
I actually think the current iteration of it, so the one that they did I think it's for the Blu-ray.
Yeah, with a slight twitch to the right as well.
Yeah, so there's a slight twitch to the right, and also they timed it so that they both kind of go at roughly the same time. Mm-hmm. I kind of think that's the best we're going to get. Yeah. It's like a decent compromise.
Yeah, it's. I get why people were annoyed about it.
Yeah, sure.
I do understand that it flattens his character arc a little. Yeah. I get that. I don't disagree with that. I just can't believe that we're still arguing about it over 20 years later.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It is that bit of that element of it is peculiar. I do think it's strange that it's persisted to that level of kind of intensity. Yes, because it being something that people still care about. That doesn't surprise me. It's a like you say, it doesn't define the character, but it could be argued that it sort of detracts a little bit from the character to have that changed. That argument can be made. You can understand it, but to have it persist for so long is quite surprising. It does seem very strange.
For context, that's been going on longer than Phantom Menace has been out.
True. Yeah.
It's weird. But It's tough because I don't disagree with it.
Well, when you say which bit don't you disagree with, to clarify?
The change doesn't ruin the movie for me. I'm perfectly happy for it to be a change that was made.
Fine.
But I understand people's objections to it. So I get both sides of it.
Yeah.
It's just purely that, okay, I understand, but, he's down on it now. It's the heels are very firmly dug in.
Yeah.
It's not changing.
No. So
maybe just let it chill on it a bit.
Yeah. I agree. I think personally, I'm in the boat where I'd rather they hadn't changed it, but at the same time, I accept that it's not my film.
Yeah,
and George is the artist, and you have to respect the artist's desires, even if you don't agree with them. That's just
totally. Otherwise, you're going to get a petition, literally every single thing a writer does.
I know, right? And imagine such a world. If you can. It's not that hard. Yeah. Let me think. What else? I think, so this one's, I have to kind of walk around this one carefully because it's going to sound like I'm, it might sound initially like I'm being particularly, what's the word?
Sexy?
I mean, possibly that might be a side effect of this, but it might sound.
Rob, it's always a risk when you're around men.
Oh, you're nice.
That's my job.
I would like fandom to just kind of dial down by a notch the kind of when something unpleasant happens to somebody in fandom. I would like to see the reaction dialed back a notch. So I'll give you an example. A few months before Celebration, there was a story that came out about Ahmed Best and how he'd been really unhappy with the way people had reacted to Phantom Menace, and that it had been really upsetting for him. He'd had it caused him issues with his mental health, and obviously that's horrendous. Mm-hmm. But then this engine starts up, and it's like, let's get him on. Let's make a fuss about him to get him at Celebration. Okay, fine. That's if Lucasfilm want to offer that to him, that's a really nice thing to do. It makes sense with the anniversary of Phantom Menace. There's no reason to argue. There's no argument for me against that being a thing. Like there's just not. There's no downside to that for me. It makes sense. It's a nice thing to do. I do find this kind of, standing ovation and all that stuff a little bit much.
Right. Okay.
You know the kind of thing I mean?
Yeah, I complained about it when the Celebration footage. I referred to the incessant whooping.
Yeah, it's kind of. It was like that, but then that was kind of the baseline. And then there'd be even more for certain kind of, certain situations. There were even more. It would sort of dial up even more. And I just feel like it goes a little bit OTT at times. Mm-hmm. And it's not, like I say, it's not to say, and this is what I mean about being careful, because the example is a particularly kind of, it could make me sound very uncaring if I worded myself in anything other than eloquently. I just feel like we could stand as a fandom to just kind of dial the reaction back a touch. Okay. Especially because I think there's a certain, and this sounds like a sort of crotchety old man thing, but I have recently aged, so I'm allowed. Mm-hmm. It strikes me that a lot of the people who were saying like, oh, well, I love Phantom Menace, and I'm so happy that blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, I love this 20th anniversary. Woo, are the same people who were ragging on it 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I really think there's a lot of duplicitous people when it comes to fandoms, and there's a lot of it's not going to be everybody, but I do think there's a little bit of bandwagoning because Star Wars, because. I don't know whether it's like a fear of the alternative, because nowadays there's like saying the wrong thing can land you sort of at the the feet of a kind of a little whipped up mini mob. I wonder if there's like an overcorrection, like people are so desperate not to be subjected to that they're kind of overcompensating.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of, that's just my sense of it. I mean, I might be completely off the reservation on that one, but it just seems to me like there's a little bit of, I say just a little bit of duplicity about it, and there's a little bit of, there's a few people who are kind of a bit fair weather about it, and a little bit. I don't
know if it's duplicity as much as it is overcompensation.
Yeah, I think that's probably more what it is. I say it kind of, I think it's that fear of, I don't want to, if I appear the least bit critical, I'm gonna get sicked on by this kind of this vocal minority of, let's be fair, at times quite unpleasant people. Like the notion that there's like one set of bad actors in some of these things is laughable, and anybody who's paying attention can see that's not the case. And it just feels like we could stand to just turn the temperature down a little bit on the reactions in general, and that would be something I'd like to see people calm down about. Is, to be honest, I'd like to see people calm down about all of fandom to a degree.
That's not a Star Wars specific thing, really, is it?
No, I just want people to kind of understand,
enjoy themselves.
Yeah, and just also to understand that if something's meaningful to you, like let's say, Star Wars is obviously the example we're talking about, right? If Star Wars means something to you, that's awesome. I have lots of emotional attachment to it for various reasons, both both within the movies themselves and outside the movies in the kind of context of the wider world. I have those hooks too, but it just feels like some people attach so much of themselves to these things that they take anything other than absolute gushing praise as an attack on them personally. And I think people could stand to relax on that. Yeah. Because I think that I genuinely worry that it makes people unhappy. As in, that people, like say, I mean, I don't think you'd have got half the kind of vitriol being spewed like in the aftermath of the release of Last Jedi if people weren't so invested on a personal level to the degree that anything other than their point of view is kind of assault, like on their kind of on their being. And it just, it strikes me as it doesn't strike me as particularly healthy. And I realize I tread on shaky moral ground, but bear in mind that we produce a weekly Star Wars show. But at the same time, I don't recall ever having whipped up that kind of frenzy about anything. Certainly not participating in a whip up.
Oh no. That wouldn't interest me.
Yeah.
There seems to be this, within some elements, there's this almost like juvenile sentiment of like, it's like when you're 13 and someone tells you your favourite band sucks. That really, really winds you up.
Yeah.
Because you're emotionally invested in this band. But as you get older, you realise that because someone said that band sucks, that doesn't mean you now think that band sucks. And it doesn't mean that band sucks.
It doesn't mean you have to dislike them. You're not obliged to do anything. Yeah.
But it seems like there is a contingent who does still feel that way.
Like everything. Yeah, like I say, like everything. If you don't like everything that somebody likes, you dislike them for some weird reason. And it's not the way,
Absolutely.
It's just, I just find it very peculiar.
Just like what you like and be passionate about it.
Yeah.
And if someone doesn't like the thing you like, that doesn't change that you like it.
No. And it doesn't make them less or you less if you don't see eye to eye on Wizards in Space. It just doesn't. That's just,
Absolutely.
That would be a nice thing if we could get to that place.
Yeah. It's so subjective, like a fiction and comedy and musical. Imagine if people got as wound up as they do about the cliche Trek versus Wars. Imagine if people got as wound up about that as they did what drinks you like.
Yeah.
So you're a Tizer fan.
Ugh.
But it's the same level of subjectivity.
Yeah, it's very much like a personal taste thing.
So next time someone slags off or has a pop at you for liking Star Trek 3. Discovery, Episode 3, whatever one of your favourite bands is, anything like that, just draw the comparison with if they've said that about the can of Lilks you're drinking. Yeah. And it will throw into context what a strange thing it is they're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a really good example, because also, we've talked about, we did a couple of weeks ago, we did a big 2-hour show with a large portion of which was talking about the good and bad of Episode 2.
And what a great show that was.
It was. And not only that, it's still a fun movie.
Yeah.
Even with the fact that it's, I think it's your least favourite and my second.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because I can watch it more than, I've watched it more than once, and thus it beats the Clone Wars animated, which I can't remember.
I think me and you need to do a commentary track for the Clone Wars movie, because I think you need to revisit it.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's as good a reason as any to revisit the Clone Wars animated, so that suits me fine. But yeah, this is the thing. I'm sure people understand that the fact that we talk about these things, I'd like to believe anyway, the fact that we talk about these things and don't just say everything is good or everything is horrible means that there's nuance to be found, and it's up to you to kind of decide how much of it you agree or disagree with. And ultimately, every single thing I say in this, every single thing we've said, and every single thing I've said in this little thing, you are also welcome to think I'm completely off the reservation and have lost the plot on this point. And that's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, because ultimately I don't put so much stock in what other people think of what I say and do and what I enjoy, because it doesn't, unless there's certain situations in which there's an exception, obviously. But broadly speaking, it's not that I don't care, but I'm just not going to I'm going to only let it faze me to a certain level. And beyond that point, I just kind of get on with it and have to accept that that's fine. I'm sure, crikey, I do enough stuff and have done enough stuff over the years that I'm sure not everybody likes everything I've ever done.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, that's cool. Good for them. Yeah, I like to think I like most of it too. But even the stuff I've made, I'm realistic to the fact that there's stuff there that's not as good as the other stuff, because by its nature, there has to be.
It can't all be Dick SDM, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's even some of the podcasts I love the most are going to have to be the worst, because something has to be. It's just one of those things. So let's say if we could get to a place as a
species,
as pop culture goes, where we could just let people get on with it and discuss these things, but not come to it from a point of view of I've made my mind up that this person's out to get my team, my side.
That's it. Yeah, it's a weird kind of tribalism.
Yeah, there's a run of that, and
I'm aware that it does affect a larger picture than pop culture franchises, but it's not really the focus of the show.
No.
But as I say, if you find yourself in a situation, please bring my drink equation into mind and just kind of throw that into sharp relief, just how ridiculous some people can be.
Yeah, it's like preferring Pop-Tarts over generic breakfast pastry number 6. It's
Pop and or ping toaster pastry.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I've forgotten the full title. Any others? I realise I've kind of broken the wheel by saying all of it. But, anything
more specifically Star Wars one.
Okay.
I guess, but I kind of wish people would cool it. Yeah, you know what? And Raylo, I don't get it. Okay. I don't get the Raylo thing. No. And worse, I some people may not know, every episode is someone's first. I also do a YouTube show for Emotionally 14 called Fire When Ready, which is about Star Wars, tabletop gaming, specifically Legion, Armada, and occasional spin-offs as well. And I run an Instagram page to promote the show.
Yeah.
And when I put up and with Instagram, it helps if you put a load of hashtags. So I always put stuff that's in the pictures, like if Darth Vader is in the picture, I do hashtag Darth Vader.
Yep.
And I'll always do stuff like hashtag Fire and Ready, hashtag Galactic Civil War, hashtag Rebel Alliance, hashtag Galactic Empire. Stuff like that is boilerplate.
Yes.
And the one, which is the very first hashtag every single time, is hashtag Star Wars.
Yes.
Because people look for that, and it's got us into the top 9 on a couple of occasions with a bit of luck and good timing, which is a big deal on Instagram.
Not for nothing, it's the pop culture franchise with which the game is tied.
Absolutely. It's an apt hashtag, which is why it gets used the most.
Yes.
And then what I will do is I'll pick a few hashtags, I'll click through to them, see what people are posting.
Yep.
If it's good content, I'll give it a like, maybe give it a subscribe to encourage them to come and check out our page and hopefully check out our show. That's what social networking is for.
Yes.
And through the hashtag Star Wars thing, I've been exposed to some of the weirdest webcomics devoted to Kylo Ren and Rey living in the far future and having babies where all the girls look like Rey and all the boys look like this kind of weird Archie comics love story between Kylo Ren and Rey. And I don't get it. No. And I don't get it even more when it's screen grabs taken out of context with speech bubbles badly photoshopped over. I don't get it when it's wonderfully rendered, detailed artistic drawings.
There are some really well done.
Sometimes anatomically correct. Ooh. And and I don't get it. And then there's that. I just lift occasionally through having to do that. I lift a rock at the bottom of the garden and see the things that are scurrying underneath the Reylo fandom. And that's something that needs to calm down, is some fringe elements of the Reylo fandom. And this is the stuff I'm experiencing purely through hashtag Star Wars on one of the biggest social media platforms.
Yes.
God only knows what's going on in the dark recesses of, I don't know, Tumblr and Grindr and whatever it is you kids are playing with these weeks.
Well, Tumblr's reduced the adult content stuff, so it's probably a little tamer than it used to be.
Okay, yes, but it's always been tamer than Grindr, to be fair, in my experience.
Well, yeah, there is a bit of that. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. I'm trying to think.
It makes me glad that other Star Wars movies happened in a kind of darker age of the internet.
Oh, yes. Can you only imagine?
Can you imagine Jar Jar Padme?
No, I mean, now I can.
Now you can.
Now you mentioned it, sure.
Now the mushrooms are kicking in,
If you just said Captain Panaka, that would have been fine.
Yeah, Jar Jar Captain Panaka.
No. I'm trying to think if there's any other Star Wars-centric ones. I'm also trying to kind of avoid dunking on, the newer stuff, because that's that's purely cult of the new that people are doing the Reylo thing because it's a storyline that's still going on. This is true.
There have been /fictions since forever, but that one is a cult of the new that I'm actively experiencing.
Yeah, for the first time, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other really sort of specific things that are Star Warsy. I think here's one actually. And this is a Star Warsy one, or it's kind of inspired by a Star Warsy one.
Mm-hmm.
Needing to plug every single hole. Every single one.
They've gotten better at it. The old EU at its worst was like trying to jam polyfiller in every single scene.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I remember I saw Steele Saunders on an episode of Black Series Rebels, and he described it quite aptly as pandering, endless retconning, and it used to be a bigger problem back in day. Yeah. And the one he specifically gave was that Star Wars, I think it's the Facebook page, shared a thing that said that C-3PO shut down when Anakin's saber was withdrawn from Ben Kenobi's chest. Mm-hmm. So I should say chest as in storage vessel rather than later on in the film. Yeah. Because he was programmed to not reveal Anakin's secret.
That's rubbish.
Yeah, but Star Wars, like a Star Wars social media account, shared this as like a "Did you know?" It's like, well, that's just all sorts of incorrect.
That's just weird. Why would he? Is it because doesn't he shut down before he gets a lightsaber out?
Yeah, he does. Also, not for nothing, but he doesn't necessarily
remember. He said his memory wiped.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if he didn't, why wouldn't he just do that as soon as Ben Kenobi turned up?
Well, exactly. That seems like, and even the mention of Anakin would be enough for him to go like, "Oh, I've had enough of this."
Yeah, no, that's weird.
Yeah,
me.
it was odd that they shared it, and it seemed like a weird kind of. And who are you trying to placate there? Because fans are only going to be cross about that because it's so obviously wrong.
Yes, there was a great period there of like explaining everything.
Yeah.
Like there was a short story that explained why Han Solo's got the scar on his chin that Harrison Ford, the actor, has.
Yeah.
Which obviously I know that's goofily done in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but the fact that if they felt a need to do that anyway, was very strange.
Yeah, I realise obviously there are exceptions to the need for explanation. Like say, why. It would have been nice to have a bit more explanation in Force Awakens as to how Rey got so powerful so fast. We get a little bit of that in Last Jedi, and that helps. And it makes her deeper and more relatable.
Yeah. That's still a story that's ongoing, though. It's not like Episode 9's finished and then there's loads of fiction and comics kind of trying. It was almost like a weird drive to connect
all the dots.
Everyone to the main storyline in a really, really obtuse way. Something like Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina was very bad for that.
Yeah.
Tales from Jabba's Palace was superb. That was almost like Pulp Fiction in the way it came together.
Yeah.
Because there was all kinds of... A few of the stories touched on the main event, but so much of it was about the actual short stories interacting with each other. Yeah. To the point, I think you had to read it through twice to get everything because there's bits in earlier stories which reference things you wouldn't read until much later.
Yeah.
It was very, very cleverly done. Mos Eisley Cantina, not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much at all. And the Bounty Hunter series got increasingly... The IG-88 story is outstanding and could have been recanonised. The rest of them were just increasingly poor.
Yeah. I must say there's a lot of that kind of side stories that I didn't really engage with so much just because they didn't strike me as required reading in the same way,
Yeah, there was. Yeah, but it was weird hole plugging, as you say. I mean, I saw a bit from Kieran Gillen recently where he was talking about the Hope Dies arc he'd just written, and he said, "Well, I rewatched Empire, and it's like 3 years later. How are these three young newcomers all generals now?"
It's like lack of options, surely.
In 3 years, he said, that was what he went there. So there's a lack of options. So obviously, there's been a massive power vacuum created requiring a lot of people have died to elevate these grunts to general status, really. And that's what the inspiration for the Hope Dies arc was.
Yeah.
That stuff, I think, is great. And that's a better way of doing expanding and supporting stories rather than... I don't know. Here's a perfect example: the Red R5 unit that explodes.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Oh my God, there are like 3 or 4 different stories about why that's a thing. Wasn't one of them?
He was a sleeper agent or something.
Just sleeper agent for the rebellion. So he blew up to make sure the Death Star plans would get there. Another version was R2-D2 basically stuck a spanner in him, so he exploded, which basically makes R2-D2 a murderer quite early on in the movie.
If they're that sentient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or the other one I heard was that droid was force sensitive.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
That's been done so many times. That little one thing, it just got. It was more polyfill than wall by the end.
This is load-bearing polyfill
or spackle, whatever you guys call it over in the States.
Spackle. Yeah, sounds right.
That's a perfect example. Or the bounty hunter who ran into an Ord Mantell was covered on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah. It's a busy day for Han Solo.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Presumably done to yakety sax.
Yeah. Yeah, there's loads of little bits that we didn't have to have every single line of dialogue that Han delivers explained.
Yeah, everything so...
Which is a concern I had about Solo, which was unwarranted.
Yeah,
because there were nice little odds and sods which worked, and gave him a bit more grounding. But, I mean, Anne C. Crispin's Han Solo trilogy, by the end of the third book, feels like a drive to cover literally every aspect of Han's character in A New Hope. Yeah, it's a shame, because the first two books in that trilogy are superb. Yeah. But there was just like this weird motivation that everything had to be explained, and it really didn't. Yeah. Because we think we want everything explained. We think we want everything connected, and we don't. Because we need to have those little gaps to fill in for ourselves.
Our imagination can do the work.
Yeah, it's that you need to have that little speculation running wild. You need to have that little bit of space to put yourself into those stories. Yeah, it felt like they were literally going to at one point do every single day that Luke was occupied between A New Hope and Empire. Yeah. And you may think you want that, but you don't. You want to be speculating and imagining the kind of things he was up to. Yeah. And maybe give him a day off here and there.
Also, not for nothing, but he needs to poop. Things like that. Like, we don't talk about those things in Star Wars because they happen presumably off screen, but I'm sure were we to go down the route of filling every hole, if you pardon the expression in this context, there would be just carnage. It would be
Yeah, totally.
It wouldn't be good. It'd be messy.
Yeah,
in so many ways.
Yeah,
so much mess.
And if when stuff gets over-explained, you end up with Prometheus and Covenant. And I think really the Alien movies were stronger when there was mystery to them.
Yeah. And I think that actually...
and it should have been mystery of a kind of, I wonder what else is out there, as opposed to a mystery kind of, Ridley, what are you on about?
Yeah, it does seem like Prometheus would have been far better served as its own entity, that maybe they tied into the Alien universe far later.
The impression I got from Prometheus was it as a movie, it had been... Normally when you're writing a work for fiction, you'll go to third draft because that's the point at which... Or first draft is to get your ideas out, second is to tidy up, third is to split and polish, and that's your finished story. Okay. Because if you keep going and keep going and keep going, then you end up with more and more loose ends from previous drafts, which probably should have been killed off. Right. And bits that don't really tie together because the bit they're supposed to reference got removed in an earlier draft. And that's really... Prometheus felt like it had gone to like the 15th draft. Because you're right, we've got this black gunk which makes these snake things do weird things, and it turns him into a zombie, but it turns them into an alien, and she gets pregnant with it, and it's just this absolute mess.
Yeah, this is the thing, and like I say, as a movie in and of itself, it's quite entertaining.
Ridley Scott is a fantastic visual director. His visuals are superb. His storytelling has gotten worse as it's gone along. Right. I mean, Blade Runner and Alien, his early stuff is great. But his strength is he always does very, very striking visuals, and that's what he's very, very good at. But I feel he needs a strong writer or a strong artist or a strong producer to work alongside.
Somebody who can kind of rein him in and give him a bit of a steer.
I think he had too many yes men on Prometheus.
Maybe.
And possibly too many no men on Covenant.
Yeah.
And not enough James Cameron doing Aliens movies.
I mean, that would be something I'd be fine with. He's done some good work.
Yeah. Any other Star Wars fandom you'd like to cool their jets a bit?
This is the tricky thing. I'll say I am genuinely struggling to kind of precise some of these. Because I'm trying to, let's say, I've obviously talked very broadly about fandom and the kind of, and it's not just I don't mean to, as I kind of touched on, I'm sure it comes across, I didn't touch on Star Wars to rag on Star Wars specifically, because I think it's a fandom problem across the board. It's an investment in, I understand the investment in sort of fiction and universes that you've enjoyed and spent a lot of time in, but it feels like there are also there's something to be said for a little bit of moderation in how much we let these kind of permeate our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Star Wars specific things. I mean, the race parents thing. I would kind of be happy for people to ease off about that. Yeah, generally. This kind of, I know you and I agree to disagree on this. But the notion that they have to be someone of import. There's a new rumor doing the rounds about this week, that it's going to be some beloved character that everybody's going to be really happy with. And it's like, well, if it's a character I already know, then I know I'm already not going to be happy about this. because I want it to be. I thought the message would be the Force kind of chooses. The Force is the steer that actually kind of populates the universe with Force sensitive people, and it's actually like something living rather than just a reservoir. And I could do with, I feel like if there wasn't such a strongly vocal desperation to kind of, and I'm not talking about people who just think it would be good. I'm talking about people who are like, will not accept anything other than she's a Palpatine or she's a Skywalker or a Kenobi or a Solo or whatever.
Yeah.
The notion that for them anything other than exactly what I want is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Those kind of people, that kind of reaction is what I could do without.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like her parentage to be a character we already know. We've done this to death between us, but for every episode someone's first. But if it's not, I'm totally fine with it. I'm not going to throw toys at me, Pram.
Likewise, to a point, if they do a decent job of explaining how it works, then fine. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, if they don't, then I reserve the right to sulk a bit.
Okay.
Briefly. I'll go over
briefly. Yeah. Cool. Should we go on to the second part of the question then?
Yeah, sure.
So what are some parts of Star Wars fandom that you would like to get people more excited about?
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I mean, it's my personal favourite. You're not going to get much of an argument out of me there.
It's a hard one. It's a high one on my list.
I don't understand a lot of people's criticism of it, because it feels to me like it heard people's criticisms of the first two and changed significantly.
Yeah.
And it's got a whooping lizard in it,
Exactly,
You guys love whooping. I've seen the conventions.
Revenge of the Sith. There are more.
Yeah. To me, Disney Plus, why are we not bouncing off the walls about that? We're getting like direct new Star Wars TV shows and the promise of exclusive movies, and everything's going to be in this little app you can click and you can watch every episode of every TV show and every movie. This is a huge deal.
It's a thing. It's interesting you say that.
We should be bouncing off the walls about this.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because mine was going to be The Mandalorian specifically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I'm surprised.
Mandalorian is part of that.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that there's not more buzz about The Mandalorian in general, because it's all about. I mean, all the news this week's been about Galaxy's Edge, which is cool. It's a $1 billion theme park. It looks kind of cool. Like,
I don't know. I saw a video of some people going through the Falcon cockpit bit, and it's like you're in the Falcon cockpit and you're being thrown around, and there's all the screens are kind of projecting what you'd see through the cockpit. And I watched it, and the only thing that kept going through my mind was, this looks bad.
Okay.
I thought the CG of what I hope it's a pre-render, because for CG it was like a late 90s video game. I thought it was really quite bad.
I'm sure it's not final at this point. I would imagine it's probably
No, but that's obviously footage. That wasn't a leak. That was an official press release. That was something they were happy for people to see. And I was just looking at it, this looks like a coin-op arcade machine, not something I'd build my holiday around.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if you look at, they're spending $1 billion on this park.
Yeah.
And, people are going to, the thing about it is, like, if you watch these videos and see these photos, like I say, some of it looks really cool. Mm-hmm. And then you think about, okay, but you're going to have to, your example is a perfect one, right? So inside the Falcon cockpit, you've got all this pre-rendered stuff, and you're going to have to queue for like 6 hours to see that. Yeah. When it first opens. And you have to, it's what I mean about kind of moderation with like having your excitement with a kind of spoonful of moderation, because you're going to have to
take your Kindle.
You're going to have to, don't go without a book. Like you're going to have to balance that with how long it's going to take to get in, how much it's going to cost, how much it's going to cost for the trip, you know, because in the same way, like, here's a perfect example from my own life. Mm-hmm. Singapore, I went there about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's a wonderful place. I loved every second of my time there. I wish I'd been able to stay twice as long. Mm-hmm. But it cost a fortune, and it took ages to get there. And
it's what, sort of 23-hour flight, I'd have thought.
I think we had a stopover the longest flight we had on the trip was 26 hours we spent 26 hours traveling.
Yeah.
It's a 15-hour flight, I think. Direct.
Yeah, I think all in from here to Hawaii was 25 hours door to door.
Yeah, so we're talking, you're talking a day spent traveling.
Yeah, it's awful.
And it's super expensive to get there because the flights are massive in price because because it's nearly a day spent traveling.
Yeah.
And you have to, as much as I loved the time in Singapore and would happily spend more time there, I do find myself thinking, but it took ages and it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And in the same way, I would be the same way with theme parks. I'm not a big theme park guy generally.
I enjoy myself when I'm there, but I haven't been for a few years. It's not like every year I go, I'm going to do a theme park. When I've gone, I go on rides, I enjoy myself, but it is British drizzle levels of queuing, not like these people. I hear these nightmare stories of people queuing 6 hours for a 3-minute ride. Yeah. As with all things, if that's your thing, if that's what you want to do, then go do that thing. Sure. Go do that thing. But I can't get excited about it.
No, I get what you mean. I'm not a big theme park guy generally, but much the same as conventions, because I'm not a convention guy because I don't really like. I was about to say I don't like people, and that's not entirely true. Yeah. It's more I don't like big groups of people all crammed in together, and I also don't like people who are kind of flout social conventions like queuing and lining up for things and kind of letting people go ahead, and conventions and geek markets and stuff seem to be a concentration of the worst, most egregious examples of people who do that stuff, like jumping queues. And if you're standing there waiting to look at something, somebody just cuts in front of you because they came from the side, and it's just it's not fun. Those things are not fun for me. Yeah.
I enjoy conventions more from the other side of a table normally.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've done you did LFCC last year as a table, right? You weren't at a table, but
I wasn't at a table. No, I was sufficiently famous for I was listed on the website, and significantly insignificant on the last day. Christopher Eccleston stole my bin.
What?
I can't break it down anymore. That Christopher Eccleston stole our bin.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Fine. No, I mean that's fair enough. I heard you. Yeah. I just couldn't quite compute. It took me a little while to compute what that implied. Yeah. What that entailed, but
we had
I
a
got
bin,
it now. Yeah, no, I understand.
And on the third day, Christopher Eccleston stole it. That's our story.
Did he sort of say it like, "I'm going to take this bin, deal with it"? I'm Christopher Eccleston.
His section had a queue, and we couldn't help but notice that he'd managed to get the queue to completely obfuscate our bin.
Oh, I see. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So he wasn't walking around going, "I'm in the top half of Doctor Who actors, so I'm just taking this." Nothing like that.
Can you imagine? No,
nothing so crude.
No, nothing so egregious. No.
I feel like he's British, so that would be his level of arrogance. Like, he wouldn't be able to say I'm the best. He would be like, I'm up there. Yeah, that would be his limit. And beyond that, he'd be like, I don't want to be too kind of, that would be a bit much, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So Mandalorian.
Obviously, I've done a few shows with E14 and following edits. Well, that's all.
Yeah, we've done a few. Yeah,
we've got one coming up. So
it's true.
This week, as of time of listening.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Revenge of the Sith and the Mandalorian.
Yeah, Disney Plus. I think we should be bouncing off the walls but I was just imagine 5 years ago, or even me and you were consuming the comics and books of the older year as when they came out. Yep. Because that was the closest we were ever going to get to what Disney Plus is actually going to give us.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of? I don't want to say entitlement because that's not what I mean. Mm-hmm. But do you think it's just a kind of we're saturated with this stuff now?
There is a part of that, which is, in a way, my reason for saying it. I want to kind of snap people out of that and go, don't you actually realise how awesome this is?
Yeah. Because
you're so surrounded by Spotify and Netflix and all this on-demand stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
But this one is Star Wars, and you should be hyper about this.
Yeah, it's like you can't believe people aren't more excited.
It's another streaming platform.
Yeah. Oh, Disney got one as well, have they?
Yeah. Sure. It's easy. It's very, very easy to get into that mind frame of, how often do you flick through Netflix and go, I can't find anything I want to watch? Of course you could find something you want to watch. You're just spoiled for choice.
That is, I do find choice overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah. But
vending machines even.
Imagine how much of a boon Spotify and Netflix would have been when you were a student at university.
Oh, man, it would have been amazing.
Imagine having Marvel Unlimited when you were a university student.
I was reading a lot of Vertigo then, so it probably wouldn't have happened much.
Yeah. But having that many comics for $10 a month?
Yeah, totally. Would have been,
that would have been a lot easier. I could have eaten some days.
Maybe I would have been 60-40 Marvel rather than the other way around.
Who knows? You know, yeah.
Who knows? It's hard to say.
These streaming platforms, they boggle my mind.
Yeah.
That and people just are so blasé about them now. And I do it as well. I go, there's nothing I want to listen to on Spotify. Of course there is.
There's tons. There's podcasts now as well. Like there's, you could discover. Yeah, you could discover.
Crazy Train, E14 Gamescast. There's loads. There's loads of good podcasts on Spotify. But I'd say those 3 are the best.
We endorse 5. I mean, I'm pretty sure most, if not all of them, are on Spotify as well.
They should be. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's every now and again. I think it's not so much I want to slap fandom. I do want to slap fandom. It's not so much that I want to slap everyone in the world and say, but it's that kind of show. Don't you realise what a great time we've got here?
Yeah, I think maybe we've had too much of it in one go. Like maybe you almost feel like I don't want to say that Netflix should have bombed, but you almost feel like each of these kind of iterations of products should have been a kind of refinement rather than all being really good.
Yeah, I like that there are niche ones. Like I like there's WWE Network, even though I don't subscribe to it myself. I like that there's WWE Network.
What's the horror one called?
Shudder.
That's the one.
I like that there are these niche ones.
Yeah,
I think that's great. Or like Marvel Unlimited is a very niche service. I like that these exist. The only ones that really cross over for me are Amazon Prime and Netflix. They seem to be doing the same thing to me. And there's a lot of crossover content as well.
There are some things that each service is kind of stronger in, kind of broadly speaking. But I think you're right. I think there is a lot of cross-pollination across those two. Especially, I mean, even something as simple as Lucifer is a good example. Yeah. Netflix has season 4 as their big thing at the moment, but if you go on Amazon, you can get series 1 to 3 in the UK. Yeah. So if you can watch, if you're subscribed to both, or indeed if you're subscribed to that plus Now TV, which I am temporarily because Game of Thrones finished a lot quicker than I thought. I've forgotten it was 6 episodes when I signed up, so I've signed up. I prepaid for 4 months.
Okay. So
now I've got till August.
There's other stuff you can find.
Yeah, there's other stuff. Yeah, this is the thing. There's Impractical Jokers. There's I think Chernobyl's on there, and Chernobyl's fantastic. That's
supposed to be amazing.
It's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, I really want to check.
It's all kind of docudrama stuff, so there's still
superb.
It's obviously heavily dramatized. But you find yourself kind of doing that thing you do with horror movies, where you're like, "Don't do that, you pillock."
Yeah, okay.
You find yourself doing that with people in Chernobyl, as like in the documentary Chernobyl. Obviously, I've not been there. I mean, I'm tall, but that happened before. But it's very well done. It seems.
Yeah, it looks very good.
It hasn't quite finished yet, so I don't know how it ends, because obviously HBO shows and endings are a sore subject for some recently.
Since The Sopranos, I think. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I suspect it's an abundance of good quality service that's causing this kind of malaise. And that's what it feels like. It's a malaise. Everybody's. It's not that people aren't. It's not that people don't like these things. Mm-hmm. It's that they just kind of. They just accept that that's how things come now.
Yeah.
I mean, even gaming's even going that way. More and more stuff is going to digital catalogs that you subscribe to, and then you can access them anytime you want, as much as you want.
I thought it would happen.
Xbox has got one. EA's got their own specific one. Sony's got one for PlayStation, which is too expensive.
Standards.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo's got a similar thing. It doesn't quite work the same way, but it does give you access to Tetris 99, which is one of the most fun gaming experiences I've had in some time. So, swings and roundabouts. But all of these, every single service, it seems, has an equivalent digital thing, and everything seems to be going towards that. Even books are kind of,
Yeah.
And audiobooks has got a similar kind of thing. I mean, Audible's not quite the same, but it's got that element of the instantaneous access and the unlimited access to your kind of library and stuff. And they're releasing loads of free content on there now, like podcasts and lectures and things like that, which I've had to listen to a few of. Mm-hmm. But there's just so much, you know, we've got a finite amount of time. Nobody ever knows how much. And time is a product of economics as much as money and other things are. Mm-hmm. You have to take those things, you have to take your time and use it on the things that interest you and the things that kind of you prioritize.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, it does seem odd that Disney Plus doesn't get more excitement, because not only, you know, even if you extend out from Star Wars, there's Marvel stuff. There's a lot of really great Disney things that aren't even attached to a specific universe. Mm-hmm. Disney have done some cracking films over the years.
Yeah.
You know, some cracking films, some really cool TV stuff. There's just so much. And you're right, everybody should be excited about that. And it's not to say that people aren't, but you do sort of sense like maybe people have just kind of got a bit weary of streaming, which is a bizarre world in that respect. You know, that everybody's kind of...
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Just smell the roses. See what a great time we're having at the moment. It's a big deal that these things are available to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm as guilty of it as anyone, because it's very, very easy to get complacent about it. But it's a fantastic time to be a nerd.
Yeah, totally. The barrier to entry for so much stuff is so much lower as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, it's great. Embrace it, but also realize what you've got.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But more Star Wars specifically.
Yeah, well, quite. In this context, this is definitely what we're talking about.
Yeah. If your fandom should be more hyper about...
Solo.
Yeah.
Solo's really fun.
I'd say it's in the top 2 of the Disney era movies.
I would say maybe. It would be between that between that and Last Jedi for me, I guess.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, Last Jedi wins out over Force Awakens because it tries new things. And even if I don't necessarily care for them myself, I appreciate when people do.
Yeah.
When people do try that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
So, it would be a toss up between Solo and Last Jedi, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I to say that I like Solo very much.
Yeah, Solo was brilliant. Solo felt of the 4 films we've had, I feel Solo felt the most like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I think Rogue One is kind of by design not the same. Put
aside Force Awakens, which was A New Hope. Solo felt there's a lot there. Yeah. Solo fit thematically so well with the original trilogy.
Yeah. You can tell, I mean, you can tell, right? As much as we have kind of been sort of constructively critical of the Disney films in places, and, you know, and that's fair, and people are allowed. You can tell that all the movies at least are made by fans, as in people who like the series. There's nobody there, I think, who is deliberately and actively seeking to make Star Wars less enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Whether they land it, what they're trying or not, is a different discussion. It's very subjective, but I don't think there's anybody you could argue is actively going out of their way to cheapen the universe. Mm-hmm. Everybody who I don't know. I can't imagine there's many film directors who aren't fans of Star Wars. It's just one of those things that's so easy to be a fan of.
Yeah, totally.
As long as you know, are willing to sort of give it some leeway, I guess, in places. Because it is, you know, Wizards in Space. It's all a bit silly.
I think if you're a filmmaker, you're probably interested in the technical side of it as well, and Star Wars broke a lot of ground on that front.
Oh, for sure. I mean, ILM is kind of, you know, there's a reason they're the sort of industry standard, isn't it? Because they did so much stuff with in many places, so little. So they were able to sort of, I mean, somebody like Ben Burt, not Ben, is it Ben Burt?
Yeah, Ben Burt, the sound guy.
Yeah. Does so much to, for some reason I thought it was Ben Bird, but I think that's, I'm thinking of Brad Bird, the one who did The Incredibles. But yeah, like Ben Burt did so much with the real world sound effects to make them into something supernatural and unusual. And that's awesome. You know, just the sheer kind of creative force at work, if you pardon the expression, involved in making all of Star Wars is great.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something. Maybe that's something that people should be more jazzed about. It's just the sheer imagination on display. And you're always, there are going to be people who are going to feel like there's missed opportunities in places, and there's going to be times where it's a lot easier to say that stuff after the fact, for sure. That they should have done this and they could have done this. Yeah, they probably could. Whether or not they should is obviously subjective, but they could do these things. But you can only do kind of what you have with the ideas you have and the best to your abilities and the technology available. And that's why we have the special editions, because Lucas had these ideas that he couldn't realize with the tech he had, and then he comes back when he's got better tech and has a go. And whatever you think of the results, the fact that he cared enough to do that is great, because he could have just left it alone, because ultimately there was nothing wrong with what he had. He just decided he wanted to do something else to try and make it better, and that should be commended.
Yeah,
as much as we love a bit of George, don't we all?
We do. Yeah,
I think anybody who's a fan has to recognise that we owe the creators a great deal.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Other stuff to be more excited about.
Solo was great.
Yeah.
It was
Solo's
all
really
the
good.
pacing of it was spot on.
Yeah.
It was
performances were good, really fun.
Yeah, our performances were superb across the board.
Yeah. Here's another one, actually. Battlefront.
I love Battlefront.
It's really fun.
It's Star Wars paintball. What more do you want?
It's so much fun. I understand some of these complaints. I understand that there was issues around the amount you'd have to grind to unlock some of the stuff. I know there's a proportion of players who just want everything available straight away all the time, and I understand it. But it's a really fun game. I've never played it and been unhappy while I've been doing so. Even if I'm losing, I'm still enjoying the act of playing the game. And I cuss and I curse and I bemoan my lack of ability, but at the same time, I'm still enjoying myself. And if I didn't enjoy myself while I was losing, I wouldn't game anywhere, because I lose a lot, and I still keep. I mean, if it involves rolling dice, I mean, Christ. But I still keep playing because the experience is enjoyable, and it's escapism as well. Like, you don't want to be. I like to get away from the sort of the notion of reality for a little while, and Star Wars is a great place to do that. And Battlefront is a great way to kind of realize that, because I feel like at best I feel like a half decent starfighter pilot, and at worst I feel like an absolute pudding in a ship.
Yep.
And that's fine. Yeah, and that's fine. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that being, I sort of middle out in a lot of games. I don't tend to do particularly well or particularly badly when it comes to multiplayer. I'll live with that. I'm not aiming to be the best in the world. Certainly now I'm 35. I don't have the time, even if I wanted to be, to get gut. I just lack the, dexterity. That's another part of it. But, Battlefront is a really fun game. It's a really enjoyable core experience, and people should be more. I'm surprised people are still giving it such a hard time. I think it's just the kind of, it's made by EA, thus evil.
Because, there's a bit of that.
Yeah. And again, I understand some of that, but I don't necessarily. I also think that could be one that you could calm down about a touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any others? Is there anything in tabletop that you feel like should get more love?
The tabletop scene for Star Wars in general is very, very strong. Fantasy Flight have done a great thing with the Star Wars. Fantasy Flight built their name with licensed properties.
Yeah.
Because we had the Lovecraft license for so long. We had the Middle Earth license for ages. Game of Thrones. Song of Ice and Fire. I don't think they had rights to Game of Thrones.
They do. They got the board game's called Game of Thrones. The card game was Song of Ice and Fire. I
was under the impression it was licensed for books, not the TV show, though.
Yeah, but one of them's called a Game of Thrones.
But they don't use the artwork from the movies or from a TV show, do they?
They have a HBO card game
Oh, okay.
Which is like, I think that came out after a few series after it was really big.
Yeah. But they did a few good video game licenses. They did Doom. They did Gears of War was superb.
Yeah, it was good.
They did Fallout. They've done a load of great licenses. And when they got the Star Wars license, I was just like, man, I'm just going to start sending these guys my paycheck every month now.
Yeah.
X-Wing, the tabletop miniatures game of Starfighter Combat, where aside, if it's a two-player game, you're probably looking at something like maybe 2 X-Wings on one side, 3 to 5 TIE fighters on the other.
Yep.
It's very much a skirmish game, and obviously you also get the big stuff like the Falcon and the Slave One, and all these other wonderful. It did do a TAM T4 for it as well. It was huge.
It seemed to me like that set the tabletop world ablaze for a while.
It did, and it still has. And I firmly believe that the reason Games Workshop pulled their license from Fantasy Flight was that in X-Wing, for the very first time ever, Warhammer had a competitor.
Right.
Because Warhammer's owned the Wargames market.
Yeah.
There's always been these smaller press things, like and especially like the sci-fi stuff like Drop Zone and War Machine. I have nothing but admiration for anyone who wants to bring out a sci-fi miniatures game because the market is so strongly owned by Games Workshop.
Yeah.
But yeah, the X-Wing is their first legitimate competitor, and it's made Games Workshop change their business model, which no one has ever made them do before.
Yeah,
they've started doing more of the smaller spin-off games like Kill Team or Blood Bowl back.
Yeah,
they didn't need to do that before because they just have this cash cow of grim darkness and far future and only war.
Yeah.
But X-Wing changed that. You can walk into a branch of Waterstones and pick up a copy of X-Wing. You cannot do that with Warhammer.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, X-Wing is and still is a very, very, very popular game.
For sure.
And there are other spin-off ones like Legion and, spin-offs of their own lines. You have Armada, which is Starfighter Combat, but for capital ships or something like an Imperial Star Destroyer is like a 7 or 8 inch long model.
Yeah.
And you have the squadrons flying around, but they're like 3 tiny TIE fighters on a base.
Yeah.
So it's like operational level. And you got Legion is their latest. Legion's not even their latest one anymore. No. Legion is the second most recent one, which is the closest they've come to
outright Warhammer style.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's such a great game. And there's a YouTube series called Fire When Ready, which does games commentaries and reviews and stuff. They're really good. I'd recommend checking them out. They're on emotionally14.com.
Yep.
Rebellion is a standalone board game, and I honestly think, even including video games, I think Rebellion is the best Star Wars game there's ever been.
It's a very, very strong game.
Yeah, I think it's because it manages to be Star Wars by having both the sprawling galaxy-spanning combat, like you have Star Destroyers and Death Stars and stuff that you're pushing across the board, but the actual way you interact with the game is with very small people.
Yeah.
It's you use Leia to do a stealth mission, or you send Palpatine on a diplomatic mission.
Yeah.
And it's the actions of people that drive the war, which is what Star Wars is.
Yeah. And
Rebellion completely nailed that feeling.
Yeah, it's a really great game.
Yeah, Rebellion, and once again, I'll threaten to do a gameplay video of it, which makes it twice in a week now. And so we should probably get on that. Rebellion is absolutely superb. Made a new one come out.
Outer Rim. This week, right?
Yeah, today, as of day of recording, it's released. Okay. Yeah, which is a standalone board game of smugglers and rogues and rebel agents.
I might have to get on that one myself.
I think Fire When Ready's got a copy, so
I still might have to get on that myself. Yeah, it runs solo, so that that appeals to me greatly.
Yeah, I think if you couldn't play a solo, that'd be a massive oversight on their part.
Yeah, I think it is. It's one. I want to say 1 to 5.
It is. Oh, play as solo. Sorry, you can also play as solo.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
yeah. For the characters, a solo Lando.
Yep.
Jyn Erso.
Okay.
I'm going off memory here.
All right.
Dr. Aphra.
Yep.
Bosk.
IG-88?
IG-88. No, not IG-88. It's Bosk, Hondo.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And Boba Fett. Yeah. So a good wealth of characters to choose from.
Yeah.
And it looks very like Privateer or Elite in that you can kind of you can do lots of PvP stuff, or you can just jet off and have your own adventures and win the game that way.
Yeah, apparently it's a lot of people are making the comparison to the Firefly game that got published a few years ago.
Yes, that's what I've heard, yeah. But it sounds like you can either be quite aggressive and take over players, or you can just kind of go off-piste and make your own adventures.
A lot of games, I played a game the other day that was like that, where you didn't have to fight, and you could still win. You know, you could still play the game quite admirably, and it was no less fun for it.
Excellent.
I think it's definitely one of those games, like one of those systems that it's nice when you've got the option to play it different ways. And I think kind of stuff like that, with both stuff with solo runs and stuff with flexibility, are kind of gaining a lot of steam. And I think that's probably because they're flexible, and because people don't always have a chance to play with friends. Yeah. Even if, if they have friends who game, it still doesn't mean you can get everybody together around the table when you have the opportunity to do so. Not all the stars have to align for that to work, and it doesn't always work that way.
No, there's some great games like that out there.
Yeah. So maybe Star Wars Tabletop as a whole is something that people should be excited about.
Listeners, if you do want to see us do a gameplay video or audio broadcast or anything like that, then badger us, because if enough people badger us, we might actually get around to doing it.
That's definitely true. Yeah, it certainly would increase the likelihood of that happening.
Badger people, come on, you can do this.
Mushroom snake.
Go on, go on, bully us.
Yeah, why not?
Anything else Star Wars fans should be more excited about? I mean, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan, to be honest.
Pretty good, yeah. I mean, you've got one movie coming out this year, one TV show coming out this year, 3 more movies on the way.
Oh my God, we haven't even seen Resistance in this country yet.
We haven't. Do you know, it's funny, I looked for that today and I couldn't find it. Not even as a digital home release. It's ludicrous that it's so far behind to me. So, although, yes, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Lucasfilm, if you're listening, it could be a better one. Don't forget about us here in the UK. We chopped a fair bit of money into making these movies successful. Yeah. Not least of all, filming locations and talent.
Yeah, basically. Don't have a word with yourself.
Exactly.
We gave you Peter Cushing, damn it.
And Daisy Ridley.
On that note,
and most
something
of the
that Star Wars fans should be more excited about is Krennic.
Oh.
Because Krennic is just the best Star Wars character we've had for years.
He's great.
He's
complex.
He's complex, but I think I said this on Firewood already the other week. He's unusual. He's a bad guy that you like, despite the fact he's not actually likable in any way.
No, there's very little that's redeeming about him.
He's snivelling and he's conniving. He's like this Falstaff type, really actually quite unlikable character.
Super competitive.
He's awesome. Yeah, you would hate to work with that guy, which makes him compelling. And he's got a sweet cape.
Yeah, the sweet cape is you can't substitute for that. There is you can't just fake a sweet cape. It just doesn't work, right? No. You can have a desk fan underneath your, on the back of your trouser leg that billows it, and it will just look forced, if you're part of the expression.
You've had Krennic swagger.
Yeah, exactly. The Mendelssohn March.
Yeah, that's all like that.
Yeah, why not? And Ben Mendelsohn does such a good job with that character as well, because he comes off in interviews like such a dude. Yeah. Whereas, in Rogue One, he comes off like, it's the word is similar, but spelled and pronounced differently.
It's such a great character.
Yeah, indeed.
And just, the Tantrums with Tarkin, man, that's a podcast name waiting to happen.
Tantrums with Tarkin, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's our spin-off.
Podcasting in my slippers.
Yeah.
I'm not. I got bare feet because my flat's warm again.
Yeah.
Rogue One is a general thing, but I feel like that
Rogue One
gets the love
championed by a lot of people.
I feel like it gets a good amount of love, like a fair amount of love.
Yeah, but not enough pure Krennic love.
This is true. Yeah. But Krennic in particular is strong.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like other. I'm also kind of simultaneously in my head thinking back to the previous question about is there anything to calm down about. I could tell you one that actually, not even Star Wars fandom, but Star Wars movie makers could do with chilling out on. Comedy robots.
Yeah. Okay.
R2's funny, but R2's funny partly because it's not. R2 is funny in a way that's not so OTT and K2's funny.
K2's great.
Yeah.
K2's funny in a very, very different way.
Yeah, and so is L3. L3 has funny moments in a different way.
L3 is closer to how K2 was for Natu. But,
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, L3 I think gets hard rap because I think L3 is actually quite a British sense of humour, and I don't think a lot of it landed for people.
Well, it's almost going for that sort of Office style, slightly cringe and awkward kind of reaction.
Yeah.
And actually, that's kind of what I would imagine Phoebe Waller-Bridge, if you'd given her complete autonomy over the lines, would have gone for. And maybe she got it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of what I feel like she would aim for, because she's quite dry and she's that kind of funny.
Yes.
So I can see how that would work. But I could do with not every film having to have one.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And we're going to get BB-8, and the BB-8 is obviously adorable. I hope that Dio is kind of more played for cuteness rather than played for laughs, because between like a bit like the Porgs are played for cuteness and played for laughs once, maybe twice, and once is Chewie roasting one, and the other one sort of welling up a bit, and that I thought that was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Just that kind of the bottom lip quivering. And it just made me laugh. But I think too much of the comedy stuff with the Porgs would have soured me to them quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a balance to be struck. It's like less is more on the comedy stuff when it comes to the stuff that's played for sort of cuteness. So hopefully that Dio, because it's kind of like you've sort of likened it to the Pixar robot, which is, I would say, a kind of a cuteness style robot design.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they kind of stick with that more and go less for the comedy.
Yes, okay.
That's one that I'd like to see them ease off on. Is the comedy robots.
Yep, it sounds like a plan to me.
Sounds like an episode title to me.
Yep. Ease off on the comedy robots.
Yeah. Any other bits you want?
No.
We've covered a pretty good spectrum, I see.
Yeah, I think we've got a good representation there.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. All right, well, I think that's a good place to kind of, that's a good note to end on. For this week. As I say, it's been a bit of a slow news week. To give you an idea of the level of slow news week, on StarWars.com today, the third story down is how to make fruit TIE fighters. I'm just saying.
How'd you do it?
It looks like you cut pineapple up and then you probably need cocktail sticks, and that. I mean, I've pretty much done most of the work for you there.
Yeah, so
it's fine. I mean, if you like fruit and TIE fighters, there's no more power to you. But
I mean, I do.
Yeah,
I'll try and make some, and I'll upload my photos.
All I'm saying is, it's been a bit of a slow week.
Okay.
But
full of vitamin C.
Full of vitamin C. This is true. It's a slow week, bereft of scurvy. How's that?
Yes, there's your episode title.
Yeah. Do you know what? I like that.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening to Talk Star Wars, a slow week, bereft of scurvy. If you've enjoyed the show and this is your first time with us, then you can subscribe, you'll be pleased to know, on all the good podcast platforms and some of the rubbish ones. But we are available on all the stuff you'd expect: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Deezer, probably. I don't even check.
Pandora.
I think Plex,
365, Launchcast.
Why not? Yeah,
Tumblr.
I think I turned that auto update off.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not so much Tumblr, but to be fair, it's not big loss.
There's a Patreon, of which means we just come to your house and do the show in the kitchen.
That's the top tier. That's a high echelon thing.
Well, flights are expensive.
Exactly, and they take ages. We've done this. But yeah, Patreon we do have. If you want to,
how awesome would it be if someone did through that?
That would be quite something.
That would make my week.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. So yeah, the Patreon is available at patreon.com/talkstarwars, and in return for just $1 a month or whatever you care to donate, then you will receive an ad-free version of the feed, which will give you the show with no ads at the beginning or end, or in longer shows in the middle. and it will also give it to you a couple of days before it hits the main feed to the general public. It will drop on a Saturday UK time instead of Monday UK time.
What a bargain.
I think it's a really good deal.
I think it is, yeah.
You can spend, $1 a month. It's not even $1 a week. It's $1 a month. That's crazy good value. If you're already dropping money on Patreon elsewhere, you'll barely notice it's there, to be honest.
I mean, if you've got an overdraft, you're already paying more for your overdraft than you are to give us a Patreon.
It's true, yeah. The comments of Talk Star Wars are not to be taken as financial advice. No,
seriously, don't.
Yeah, really, for real. Yeah. So we're available on all the good podcasting platforms, but if you want the ad-free version, patreon.com/talkstarwars is where to get it. It's also available on emotionally14.com every Monday, and you can just get the show directly from there. And while you're there, you can have a browse of other E14 stuff. So, there's a podcast player in the actual Talk Star Wars post, and you can scroll down and read some other stuff. Wouldn't that be nice?
Make it so easy for you guys.
I know. I go to so much trouble to make these things accessible, and it works out pretty well, I think.
You're just so nice.
I know. And then we're available on social media as if that wasn't enough. You got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all Talk Star Wars, Emotionally 14. You can search for both, and you can find both because they're both still there. I should probably think about that, but never mind. Brad, social media, speaking of which, where might people find you?
Well, firstly, you can find me at emotionally14.com, where I do occasional articles and pop up on podcasts. But I also do my own YouTube series called Fire When Ready, Adventures in Star Wars Top Gaming, which I mentioned earlier, covers Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Armada, Star Wars Rebellion, Star Wars Outer Rim, basically all the larger scale stuff. I've nothing against X-Wing. It's just there's loads of shows out there who know it better than I do. So let them do their thing.
Fair.
You can obviously catch the show on Emotionally 14 and on Emotionally 14's YouTube page, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Fire When Ready UK. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can add me on Facebook at facebook.com/Brad Harmer Barnes. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RealBradHB, and you can buy my books through Amazon and Audible.
Yes, you can. And you can visit Emotionally 14's Team E14 page and find a link to Brad's books via the E14 Amazon widget. And you will be able to buy them, and then that will chuck a couple of pennies into the E14 coffers to put towards things like kit upgrades.
Wins. Yeah. Every wins. E14 gets a cut. You don't pay any more.
Exactly.
I don't get paid any less. E14 gets a cut. I can pay my rent.
What's not to like?
You get some barely passable fiction.
What's not to like, ultimately?
Yeah.
I can be found on social media at Rob Wade Vision, Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also the one behind the Emotionally 14 and Talk Star Wars Instagram and Twitter. Although you might notice that, that's true. Yeah, they're not automated. Although you would be forgiven for thinking so on certain slow days. I would be remiss, as always, if I didn't mention the fine podcast of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. But I should say before that, if you wish to write into us, which obviously this week not as many people have done, but we're always grateful to hear when people do, you can do so by emailing podcast@emotionally14.com and giving it the subject line Talk Star Wars is a nice way to differentiate that from the other fine shows we do. However, I would be remiss if I didn't end the show by saluting and commending the wonderful podcast of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. So in addition to Talk Star Wars, the Commonwealth is made up of the fantastic Tumbling Saber, the equally fantastic Generation X-Wing, the similarly fantastic The Nerd Room podcast, the also fantastic Rogue Squadron podcast, the simply fantastic San Diego Sabres radio podcast, the quite fantastic Retro Inc. podcast, and the indubitably fantastic Sandcrawler cast with Dan and Mike. And that is a series of 8 adjectives to prefix fantastic. So, I think that's worth a little golf clap for those who feel so inclined, just out there in Radio Land. So those shows are all available to view online on the web at StarWarsCommonwealth.com, where you can catch one or more of those shows and take your first steps into a larger world.
Boom.
Until next week, this has been Talk Star Wars episode 171. We will see you next week for episode 172. Be good to each other, and until then, may the Force be with you.